Welcome to our 5 questions and 5 answers series. Thank you so much for being a part of this. This week I am interviewing Rod Kreie. Right? And you were invited because you are the mayor, but there's more to you than being the mayor, right? And so let's start with having you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role that your organization or organizations that you choose to highlight play in the community.
Okay, well, I'm pretty much here representing the city of Newton and all things economic development, community development, things associated with the role that I have as a commissioner whose turn it is to be mayor right now. So, going back, I moved here 14 years ago, and pretty much left Ulysses, Kansas, my hometown, because I was really overly involved and probably the easiest thing to do in light of some of the economic things that were happening out there. It was easier to just move somewhere else and stop everything that I was involved with, rather than trying to pick and choose what I kind of worked myself out of. That there's other reasons that we moved. Our kids live far away. It's a long way to airports. Spend a lot of time driving to airports and back to Ulysses. When we land coming home from somewhere now, we hop in the car in 30 minutes, we're home, and back then we're talking 4 hours. And with all the traveling that I did at that time and still do considerable amount of traveling, it sure makes sense to be right here in Newton, Kansas.
Well, Newton's kind of a good spot to be, right?
I think it is. It doesn't take long. You've got everything that's happening in Wichita at your disposal, and we oftentimes go to Kansas City, especially when some of our kids used to live there. You can be in downtown Kansas City in 2.5 hours too.
So the first question we have of the 5, the big 5, it is the most important, I think. And that is, from your viewpoint, what is the most pressing challenges we're facing as a community at a local level right now?
At a local level, okay. Well, for me, I believe in very serious, deliberate, long-range planning, and I would say right now, some of the things that scare me. Okay. I don't lose sleep over them, but I mean they seem to boil up when I think about things like that. The first one is in any community you have to figure out how to transition younger leadership from your community into leadership roles in some organized method that will ensure that things will keep running smoothly, for younger elected officials. I do know, this last election cycle, I asked a lot of people to consider running for city commissioner when Clint McBroom vacated his position, and one of the things that I kept hearing time and time again was that people don't think that they're ready and don't feel like they have enough expertise. Another one of the things that I've read, and I think that's kind of going away to a certain extent, is they just don't like to expose themselves to public criticism at the level that can get to when things happen. People are pretty opinionated now, especially on social media. Things can seem a lot worse than they really are. And right now, just you know, if you're paying attention, there's maybe 8 or 10 people that nobody really listened to anymore. You know, that's a problem. But figuring out a way to get more people in the pipeline, that's something we're working on right now. There's a group of us that are looking at putting that organization together that to identify and run through some type of an organized system people that we think would be good leaders in the future. And even if they don't run for public office, you know, we still think it's going to make a lot of sense to get them some exposure to how a city runs, how the county runs, and how a school district runs. And we're hoping to crank that up here in the near future. And you know, even if those people, like I said, don't run for public office, we still have we're increasing the size and of the group that's in the know. And if they don't become an elected official, at least they'll be a more informed citizen, and that certainly can't earn anything. One of the other things that worries me is what I call the gap between prosperity, which it looks like Newton is really headed in the right direction for some economic development things that are happening, and the getting there. You know, we still have a pretty aggressive infrastructure program where we're fixing old water lines and you know, maintaining streets and things like that. And with inflation the way it's been, you know, 2 years ago during that real inflationary period of time, the city adjusted inflation rate was, I think it was like 14.22%. Well, you apply that to the commodities that we buy, and you're talking, you know, a considerable number of mills, maybe 10, 12, 15 mills. And you know, you have to adjust and adapt. You can't just pass all that through to the citizens. So there's that period of time now where we still have to be a city worth living in and pay all those expenses and maintain what we have. And when the tax incentives will roll off of the companies that are coming to town right now, we're going to have plenty of other entities that are going to locate here that will pay taxes from the onset, and that's part of the calculation to where, you know, you give the big companies the incentives, and then some of the other companies that follow them to wherever they're at, they'll just come buy ground and put in support facilities, and most of them won't even ask for a tax abatement. So.
And then you also add some rooftops during that, right?
Well, exactly.
You got to expand the housing base
The whole thing really kind of, it's just a circle of, you know, you don't really get a pick. It just seems to happen. What happens first? Is it the industry, or is it the housing? But in this case, the community had enough confidence that all this was going to happen, that they started building houses, and obviously Quick Trip, you know, they're kind of in the know. They felt like this was the time to do something here in Newton. And then the last thing that I think is really important, that we hope to be able to improve our relationship with the school board and work together with them is it's time for us to take a hard look at our school system here and figure out what the community really does need. And you know, in times of inflation, I mean, already if you take a look at building costs now compared to where they were 10 years ago, you know, that turns a $70 million bond issue into $115 million bond issue.
Right.
So you know, the longer we wait, the more it's going to cost, and quality of your schools really is one of the influencing factors on being able to sell a company on your community. So it's going to take the whole community and all the business leaders to understand that we need better schools for it to happen, and a whole lot more people need to get behind something like that. And it needs to be the community school. It can't be the school board school, can't be the school system school. It's our school. It's for, and I don't even have any kids still in school, but I know how important it is that we do something there.
Yeah. So next question we got, this is where we're going to start turning the focus towards local media, really. And considering the evolving media landscape, what role do you see local media playing in this community 5 years from now?
Well, I've been thinking a lot about these questions, Chad. You know, media's changed so much. I think we've placed too much emphasis on getting our news in the wrong place. You know, I mean, all the newspapers, they have a social media presence, and in order for a person to be able to click on something to see a story in written form, and I commend you for doing. I'm really a big fan of podcasts, so that you can play what's actually said. Sometimes newspapers can be unfair in the way they report. You know, oftentimes newspapers, you know, they play to one side of an issue rather than just reporting what the issues are. And I will say, you know, I totally admire you and the way you write, because you're one of the most honest, fair writers, newspaper writers that I've ever come into contact with, and I totally respect that. But
thank you. But
I think it's very important that as a community is trying to grow, that everybody, if you watch anything that I do, I mean, I'm so into collaborations. I mean, you know, I think that if you try to do anything without having everyone that has some type of an influence seated at the table, so that you can figure out how to move forward in the most efficient way that takes the least amount of time and the least amount of cost, then it just becomes more difficult. So I feel like that newspapers can play really a big role in just being like the glue that holds things together, to educate and to encourage and to hold us accountable if need to, but to do it in a fair way and an honest way. And I would tell you, you know, there's only been a couple times that I've voted for something at the city level that I went home and felt bad about. And it was about fireworks, both times. You know, the first time when I went home, I thought, man, that's an awful long time, you know, for people to be able to light fireworks. And then just this last time, after we got through, I went home and I said, you know, and I thought about it at the time, you know, it gets dark at 9:15, and then people are going to have to quit lighting at 10 o'clock. So, you know, I think honesty, you know, is really important in what everybody does, and I'm just thankful, you know, that we have people like you that are fair. That will hold our feet to the fire if they need to, but in an honest and fair way. So I see your role as just being that collaborative partner. You know, I see that role as being just as important as you know, what I do, where I'm kind of involved in direct decision making, and And I think our relationship, you know, is good enough. You've called me from time to time and want to know why I made a decision that I did, and that's the honesty and the transparency that I talk about. You know, any elected official should have.
So in your opinion, what role should the newspaper play in promoting civic participation and community involvement?
Well, you know, there again, when I was thinking about the answers to some of these questions, it's almost the same answer for that too. I mean, a good newspaper that does hometown reporting in a open and transparent world will have a seat at that table, so that they can report what's actually happening, and in a way that would stimulate people's desire to go to something. And you know, we're an event-filled town. You know, these people that say that you know, there's nothing to do in Newton. It's like, follow me around for a day.
They've never sat down and typed up the community event calendar.
No, they
you know?
they really haven't.
Because if they do, they'll find out there's a lot to do. But, yeah. So, you know, community events. What community events or activities you think we should be covering better, and to better connect with the residents of this community?
Well, one thing that it just keeps coming back in my head, Chad, is probably our young people. Do you feel like you got young people that read your newspaper?
Generally speaking, we trend older.
Yeah, you trend older.
And that's true of every print publication in the country.
Well, I'm a real sucker for real life stories, you know. I love it. I love heroes, and I grew up with, I mean, really admiring some people to the point to where, you know, it's not like I'm stalking them or anything, but it's like, man, I would really like to be like them. You know, maybe they weren't, maybe it was a fantasy that they were that good, but like I remember, you know, Tom Cross and Hadley Hall and Ernie Wood, and a lot of times they were athletes. Sometimes they're just business guys, but I think there's room in the world, in the newspaper world, to figure out how to broaden your base of stories by getting kids involved. You know, I don't know. I mean, if I were to own a newspaper right now, I mean, you do some things that are pretty innovative, but how can you broaden your base so that you don't miss hardly anything? I mean, everybody's interested in something different, so it's really kind of, I can't imagine what it would be like to have to. I'm sure you have periods of time where you just have to dig up something just because you need to fill space in the newspaper, but I would think it would be cool. You know, there's got to be stories out there that aren't being told. I get really excited when I see young people get involved at a community level. That doesn't happen that much anymore. In fact, most of the time they do community service, it's because they have a class or something that says that you got to do 5 hours of this or 5 hours of that. I mean, there's got to be kids interested in writing out there that love to read, that would look for stuff, and you know, we have a saying. I'm a real avid Rotarian. Is that we need more hands, and we need more ears, we need more eyes. I would have to think that if there was a way you could engage with a class or something up at the high school and let them kids be creative, that you might end up with some special sauce.
Maybe we need to wait for, I probably shouldn't say that out loud, but it's not for the lack of trying.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we've gone that route where we've trying to
Kids
engage a
are-
class, for example, but
Kids
you know,
are harder
we've
to
tried.
work with today. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, I just take a look at their day-to-day lives and, you know, I mean, if you could get
They're
rid-
busier than we ever were, weren't
They really are,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we were always looking for stuff, but.
So considering the current economic landscape, how can we support local business and contribute to the economic growth of our community?
Well, I think there again, you know, just being there, and you're there a lot, but you know, newspapers do what newspapers do, and I think just being there and working with everybody that's trying to do good for the community, you know, there's been a few times you've asked me questions I never would have thought about, and I'm always open to different viewpoints, and I'm not really much one to argue, but I think you're pretty much doing all that stuff, Chad, and you know, there's probably an easier way to connect than just through the old informal, you know, bump into each other and get a story stuff, but you know, if there's ever a story out there, I'm not afraid to call you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your thoughts and being part of this 5 questions, 5 answers series. Before we wrap up, what question can we ask the community in some surveys that we're going to be doing up in the near future that your organization or yourself would like to know the answers to?
I spent a lot more time on this question than I did on some of the others. You know, if you're not in the newspaper business, I mean, my mom worked in the newspaper business when I was in high school, actually for about 14 to 15 years. So I probably know more about how local hometown newspapers run. But one of the things that probably, you know, there's a lot of people out there that could do things to help the community, and they don't even know. You know, nobody ever asks them. You get so busy in your own circles that. But one of the questions is there anything that we can do to plug a person in at some level because they have the time or the skill to help the city succeed in that area? I really think it's important that you take a look at your community assets from time to time, and there's probably people that are willing to get involved if you just ask them, you know. And I would also like to know, like, what amenities are we missing? Is there something you've seen somewhere else that we could put in our long-range plan that other communities have that you think would be really cool for Newton to have, knowing that it might not happen right away, but if you don't ever plug it into your plan, then you know, it never happens. I've never seen anything happen yet that wasn't part of some type of a planning process.
It always starts with somebody asking the
It
question,
does,
right?
it does. You know, it's
So-
like I said the other day on another podcast I did, I met with 2 people actually 3 people at Norm's the other day, talking about something that they were passionate about it was so far off my radar. You know, I mean, I'm one of them guys that I'm just like a dog on a bone. You know, if we got this plan put together, I mean, we really are checking boxes off literally right now. I think anybody in the know that anybody pays any attention, you know, they, you know, other than, you know, obviously we have too many roundabouts or people would quit complaining about that, but anyway. And then, it would be interesting, there's probably people doing stuff that we don't know about that's good for the community that we never hear about. So the question, you know, what are you doing to make Newton a better place that might not be getting noticed right now? And is there some way we can help you with that, whatever it is that you're doing, you know? I mean, I continue to be amazed, you know, when I bump into people and they tell me about what somebody did and it was like really cool, and I never did hear about it. So
yeah, and sometimes you know like the second half of that question I think would be, who is it that can help you accomplish that?
Exactly.
Right? Because my brain's been spinning for like the last minute and a half here, because if you'd asked the question of me 5 years ago, what's an amenity that we are missing?
Yeah.
I would have had an answer.
Yeah.
Right off the top. And when I first experienced said amenity, when I got back to town, the first place I went was, because I was on their board at the time, was to the United Way. And I said, we need this. This town needs this. Talking about an inclusive playground, right?
Yeah.
And we all looked at each other, and everybody was in agreement. We need this. But we all looked and went, but we don't know how to accomplish it.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We weren't the right people.
Yeah.
Right? It was the kids over at Slate Creek that were the right people.
Absolutely.
And that's going to happen
Yeah.
now. This summer they're going to get.
Yep.
It's going to be under construction. So the question is, what's that next thing, and then who's going to help us?
Exactly.
Who can help accomplish it?
Well, it's interesting you said that, because my last question was that we need to survey the kids and ask the kids what it is we're missing. And you know, your example was just spot on. You know, I mean, a kid stands around, watches his friend in a wheelchair get to sit there and watch him play on all the playground equipment. I mean, you know, the bless those kids for noticing that. I mean, that was a, you know, that was a inequity that needed to be looked at, and those kids sold candy bars and did stuff until they raised, I mean, my goodness, they raised $20,000 just doing that. So it sure got me motivated to pitch in and help, and I'm thankful that I've got to be a small part of, you know, helping put that thing together.
Well, I think that's it for this week's interview. Next week, God willing, the river don't rise and the plans actually come together. We'll have Craig Dunleavy in the chair. And please, folks, help us spread this conversation. Share this video. Let us know what you think about this conversation on our Facebook page. It's going to be posted there, as all of them have been. And I look forward to at least 2 more of these. So, thanks, Rod.
Yeah, thank you, Chad. Appreciate it.